Careers will be ruined. They will be targeted or retargeted by the crazy MAGA people because their names will be back in the news. It will be really an intolerable, insufferable situation because they do deserve protection. They deserve protection from the mob, from the crazies, from Trump and his henchmen, not to mention the loose cannons who are really psychotic and run around with guns. Hi, this is Jen Rubin. This is Jen Rubin's Green Room. Hope you're having a nice weekend. I certainly am. It was a troublesome week in many respects. You saw perhaps the survival of Pete Hegseth as the nominee for Secretary of Defense. You saw the pathetic sight of Joni Ernst, who is not only a veteran, but who has acknowledged being the victim of sexual assault, say that she really could consider this guy. Really? Really? That's what we've come down to? Forget for a moment the allegations of sexual misconduct. Forget for a moment the alcoholism. Forget the infidelity. By the way, if you're a military officer, you get kicked out for those things, including the infidelity. But put that all aside. What in the world possibly prepares him to assume command of the Pentagon? It's a huge bureaucracy. You have strategic, international, diplomatic problems to solve. You have to have relationships around the world. He is utterly unqualified. It would be like putting me in the American Ballet Theater. Oh, yeah, once I took ballet lessons when I was a kid, but it doesn't mean I should be in the Corps de Ballet. The same thing with him. And for him, it's extremely serious. He's going to be making recommendations on whether we go to war or not. He's going to be making recommendations potentially on whether we use nuclear weapons. Why in the world would we give this position to this guy? And yet Republicans so far, I certainly hope some of them stand up and be counted, seem to be falling into line. Why is that? Because they're spineless careerists. They want to please Trump. They don't want to get on his bad side. And they really put their own political career, and maybe even their own safety, if they're concerned about that, above the needs of the country. And you know what? If you do that, you shouldn't be in public office. You really shouldn't. You're a coward, and you should go make your money in the private sector where you don't have the responsibility for the lives and welfare of millions of Americans. Meanwhile, we learned that RFK Jr., who is the nominee for HHS, has a lawyer. And this lawyer has been suing to recall the polio vaccine. That's monstrously evil, in addition to being just stupid and ill-informed. Polio? Really? When I was a kid, there were still people who bore the signs of polio. Mitch McConnell bears the signs of polio. He had polio as a child. We have made enormous strides as a country, wiping this out 70 years ago or so. And he wants to make America great for polio again? This is madness. And it's this kind of dereliction of duty, kind of a shrug of the shoulders, disdain for the American people that characterizes everything these guys are doing. And we're going to see a lot of this. So why can't the senators stand up? They're big boys and girls. They have careers. They have resources. Can't they at least for once do the right thing? Well, we're going to find out. Most of them won't be able to do so. But we'll see if a handful of them. And that's all you need. All you need is a handful of them. Now, contrast that with Kash Patel, who is another one who should never see the inside of a federal building except on a tour, who is nominated for the FBI director, has a hit list of people he wants to go after. He has identified people like Mark Milley, like Bill Barr, like the witnesses in the January 6th proceeding, like the January 6th lawmakers, that he's going to go after and criminally prosecute. Even if there's no basis for this, and there is no basis, these people did nothing wrong. All they did was stand up, do their jobs. In the case of ordinary Americans as witnesses, come in and testify in proceedings. They did nothing wrong. But if they are prosecuted, they will have to spend potentially millions of dollars each to defend themselves. Their lives will be turned upside down. Careers will be ruined. They will be targeted or retargeted by the crazy MAGA people because their names will be back in the news. It will be really an intolerable, insufferable situation. Think of it this way. Think of them as people who, if the next president were a Democrat, would be in a witness protection program because they do deserve protection. They deserve protection from the mob, from the crazies, from Trump and his henchmen, not to mention the loose cannons who are really psychotic and run around with guns. But because the next president is Trump himself, the very person who is threatening them, then what do we need? I think these people deserve a pardon. Now, I began thinking that very broad categories of people deserve a pardon, and I suppose that's right. But I think in order to make this, I think, acceptable to the great number of Americans, in order to balance the operation of the normal judicial system with the pardon power, I would be content, frankly, to pardon simply those people who were witnesses in whatever proceedings and whom Trump has threatened. I think that's a limited number of people. I think that's a group of people who deserve protection. And frankly, the prosecutors and even the lawmakers really don't need it. They have other protections, they have other immunities. The lawmakers, for example, have the speech and debate clause that protects them from being sued or prosecuted for essentially doing their job, which they were. Federal prosecutors have immunity for acting under the color of law and doing their duty. So the threats against them are rather specious. And not to mention, those people have plenty of resources to fight off the Kash Patels. But a lot of people don't. And for them, I think they are deserving of protection. And I gotta say, it's pretty nervy for Republicans who don't even have the nerve to stand up to Trump and do their job, to exercise advice and consent, or to refuse to sign on to really inhumane, extraordinary, unconstitutional measures. Those same cowards say, oh no, these other people, who by the way have done nothing, don't deserve any kind of protection. Me, I'm just going to get protection by being a coward, by ducking my duty. These other people who did their duty, the heck with them. They have to fend for themselves. That's just backwards. That's just mind-bogglingly unfair and immoral. Now, I realize a lot of people say, well, it's just going to make the implication that these people actually did something wrong stronger. That's not really the case. It is a misnomer that you have to accept guilt or you have to admit guilt in order to accept a pardon. And in this case, I think the pardon should say it flat out. The reason these people are getting pardons is because they've been unfairly threatened by the incoming administration, specifically Donald Trump and his appointed or nominated, at least, FBI director. Say it out loud and let them defend them. Let them explain why we should be putting into power someone like Kash Patel and then throwing these other people to the wolves, leaving them as victims, essentially, of the wrath and retribution of the incoming administration. So I'll say this. If Trump wants to renounce any kind of retribution, he wants to pull the nomination of Kash Patel. He wants to make a promise and put in protections that ensure that the White House is not directing vindictive prosecutions. Then maybe these pardons won't be necessary. But there is no way he is going to do that. And the reason why we need pardons is there's no way he's going to do those things. There's no way he's going to serve as an ordinary president who does not abuse his power, who maintains an arm's length relationship with the Department of Justice. There's no way he's going to do that. And because he's such an abnormal president and such a really unique figure in American history, I mean that in every negative sense of the word, I think there is a bit of an extraordinary obligation on the part of the president, the current president, Joe Biden. And I would urge him to think about this very hard. And remember, people don't have to accept the pardon. If they think that they'll look worse in the eyes of some of the public, they don't have to accept it. Bill Barr probably doesn't want to accept a pardon. Maybe he does. We'll find out. But I think Joe Biden should at least extend the umbrella of protection, give out the entry card into the witness protection plan that is designed to protect people from a vindictive criminal. Trump was convicted of a crime, who is out to get ordinary people simply for being good citizens. So, food for thought. I hope you're enjoying your holiday shopping season. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself over the holidays. Gird yourself for the following year, which is going to be just as traumatic, I am certain, as the years have been since Trump rode down that escalator. But, I think there's reason for optimism as well. Remember, Trump is an incompetent. He wants to do a lot of things that are just physically impossible. And when he does bad things, when he does stupid things, when things don't work out, he will pay a price. So don't imagine that he's this great colossus. You should be anxious, but not fearful. How's that? Anxious, but not fearful. It almost fits on a bumper sticker. Well, if you like this show, you like our other shows, please tell your friends, your colleagues, your relations, and tell them they can follow us wherever they get their podcasts. Bye-bye.